I've got this dragon in my garage. You want to see it? It's super cool. Like, come here. Let's see. You open the garage door, and you look in there, and it's like, I don't see anything. There's a couple paint cans, a bicycle, and it's just empty. Well, see, this is an invisible dragon. Oh, an invisible dragon. Yeah. It's invisibly super cool. Well, I've got some flour, so let's spread flour on the floor, and we'll catch the invisible dragon's footprints. Now, you see, this is a very special dragon. It hovers above the floor about a foot. Okay, well, I have some infrared heat detecting equipment for my camera, so we'll measure this dragon. Now, see, this is a cold-blooded dragon. It doesn't give off any heat. Well, what about the dragon fire? We can surely measure the fire. No, it's cold fire. Cold fire. Okay. So at some point, the question is, what's the difference between an invisible, hovering, cold, heatless, incorporeal dragon and no dragon at all?
Nothing. Now you may say, oh, but I prayed to the dragon and my migraine went away a couple hours later. Okay, that's interesting. Could we run the experiment with 50 people with migraine headaches, 50 people with regular headaches, 50 people with no headaches? Everybody prays to the dragon. We see if there's a measurable difference. Can you control for the fact that headaches do tend to go away after a few hours, and so on? Well, but I feel the love of the dragon. I feel him in my heart. When I go throughout my day, I can feel the dragon's presence. I got a parking spot that I didn't think I'd get. I got the tickets to the concert. I prayed to the dragon, and my Aunt Mary's cancer went away. I mean, all these wonderful things happen, and I feel the presence of the dragon. And the dragon explains why bad things happen, and why is there a universe? The dragon brought it into existence. These are not arguments. These are special pleadings to affirm a hypothesis you already want to be true. Okay, that's faith. And that's not a reliable knowledge claim. You cannot hang on to that and convince me that it's true. You may personally believe it. That's fine, but to convince me, you have to do something more than that. There has to be some measurable, empirical test, some experiment we can run.
If you can't falsify it in some way, disprove it, test it, get at it through some kind of test, then what are we talking about? Nothing. It's just sort of the end of the conversation. It's just, well, this is my opinion, and that's your opinion. And in a way, this is like playing baseball without the bases or the ball. It's just, well, what are we doing here? Just looking at each other. So it's just an assertion. I just assert there's a God because it makes me feel good. Okay, fine. Listening to Bach makes me feel good. So, what have we proven? Nothing. It's just what makes us feel good. It's an assertion. And as Christopher Hitchens said, that which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. If someone just makes an assertion, you don't have to respond. You say, what's your evidence? If they don't have any, it's like, okay, next.
The ancients used to hear the thunder and see the lightning, and they wondered, what is it? It's a being, an animal, a person, a god up there named Zeus or Thor. And they thought that's what was causing. They didn't know what it was. Now we understand electricity and weather. That gap is closed, and that's what drives science. What day of the week is it today? Thor's Day. We have a day of the week devoted to the belief in this God who no longer exists. That gap has closed. It's gone, right? And sure, there are gaps in our current understanding, but that's what drives science. It's wonderful to find these questions, but to just irresponsibly plug it with your God. No cosmologist says, first there was nothing. None of them say that. There was no singularity. The Big Bang is the origin of our current universe that we live in. You say that space-time had a beginning, but that's not what cosmologists are saying anymore. That's passé. That's ancient history in cosmology. Even Lee Smolin has come up with a number of his multiverse ideas that even universes themselves go through an evolutionary sort of natural selection. It's a hypothesis. It's a gap, I admit. But scientists say, let's keep the gap open rather than just, because of our religious faith, plug it with our ideas.
The problem with saying, well, there has to be a cause to the universe that does not need a cause, Why can't there be, and that therefore is God, that's an ancient argument, but why does there have to be some sort of entity that causes the universe? Why can't it be a non-entity? Maybe there's some other universe that causes universes. And of course, the theist would say, yeah, but those universes had to be created by some non-universe type creator. And that gets us into an infinite regress, and that can go nowhere. Because ultimately, I think our brains are too restricted, too limited in our capacity to solve those kinds of problems. So to me, a scientist, it doesn't offer anything to say God did it. Why not just say Zeus did it? It's a non-answer. That is, as soon as you step out of the realm of the natural and say, well, I think a supernatural entity did it, the word supernatural, it's just a word. It's just a linguistic placeholder for, I don't know, or I can't explain it, or it's an unsolved mystery. We'll say it was a supernatural event. Much like when cosmologists and astronomers talk about dark energy and dark matter, they don't mean that as an explanation. It isn't an explanation. It isn't an answer at all. It's a linguistic placeholder that says, we're not sure what's causing the galaxies to hold together the way that they do. There's not enough stuff that we can see and measure at the moment to explain it. Therefore, there's something else. We'll just call it dark energy for now. The problem I have with theism is that that would be the answer for the theist. Oh, it's a dark energy, or God did it, or something like that. As if that's an answer. It's not an answer. It's a non-answer. It's a showstopper. It's a conversation stopper. If you're doing science and reason and logic and so on, we have to keep pushing further and deeper. What caused that? So that's the problem with offering something like a supernatural explanation. How do we explain the origins of the universe? God did it. That's not an answer. It doesn't answer anything. Don't you want to know how she did it?
If it is true that functional complexity requires a designer, then the mind of a God also requires a designer. Isn't the mind of a God beautiful? Doesn't it function? Isn't it complex? Doesn't he have desires? Doesn't he have plans? Isn't he this amazing is he just a big blob of random nothingness, or is he an amazingly organized genius of a beautiful, wise being up there? That complexity, by the argument of design, also would require a designer. If it doesn't, then throw away your argument. You're just believing by faith. The design argument either stands or it doesn't. So you can't invoke a designer to explain complexity who's more complex than the thing that it designed. That's circular reasoning. That's called begging the question. What you're doing is you're just explaining one mystery with another mystery. Tell us about this designer. Tell us about this being. How does its brain function in an immaterial world? How does it make decisions? How does it have any antecedents in deciding and act? How does it function without needing to be designed, while everything else that functions does have to be designed? You see the illogic in the reasoning there.